Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Coming live from Viper Heart, children of God. And that's you. That's you. And me. And me. And Hippo Ullaby. As far as I know, the solar flares and things calmed down a little or whatever went on because they were like, and I was a little bit, and then now we're just like tired today. They're like, not this morning so much, they're much more low key tonight. I wanted to go over a few things. And I'll be honest, it wasn't the most. I was kind of wanting to just not completely close up the videos, but maybe take about a month to realign with what I don't know, shift something with God to because I don't really like what's going on here, and I when I think about the very first video I did, which they had me so fragmented and sliced up at U of M. I can't believe the miracle between I couldn't write a sentence no more. I couldn't tie my shoes. That was some sort of radical change within several months, but they were then wanting to send me home with a pill that I couldn't breathe on. So whatever they were giving me, they wanted me to die at home. And that was actually administered through Monroe County, so they refused to work something with the doctor up at U of M. So that means that the doctor of U of M was still enforcing that them down here in Monroe, Michigan, administer this death pill for me, more or less. That would have been around, oh gosh, I'm not always going to have this exact year right. They really had to get enough labels and they had to keep me stressed and due deviced. And the smart meter, I was very sensitive to the smart meters. We were in the enclosed area at the trailer park. I was having just horrible symptoms. I mean, we had had direct cartel threats um, from a member of a Mexican cartel. I would have never even imagined that my family and the first exes with that cartel. That I guess it was just one of those things that just was above and beyond me, and I was just like focused on a couple things for my son, and I to keep my son preserved to some degree, help him stay on some kind of track, but and protected, and who he wanted to see when he wanted to see him was up to him because of the prior confessionals. And so where are we going here? May not have much direction. I'm going to try to get a couple things done. I wanted to maybe read out of here something. The fact that there's never once using this thing, and I was already supposed to have gotten another device if I'm not going to hook up the small camera and get a stand for it. So all right, I turned to I didn't put any. I turned to Mark 3. This is controversy over Sabbath healing, Pharisees' counsel to destroy Jesus, selection of the 12, opposition of his friends, scribes commit the unpardonable, new relationships are defined. If I do like one of the pump up ones, I guess from yelling, it would be sometime this week. All right, so I'm just going to say that one. Let's just try Mark 3. Other thing, I was going to look back up what happened down in Texas with Osteen's. Is it Olstein or I always say Olstein? So maybe the Osteen was spelled wrong. Can't stand his ministry. Watched him come out on the front. People who raised me liked to watch him, made him feel good. Couldn't stand him because of, and see, that's where I need to get more specific here. I really don't dislike anyone. It can be said whatever way you want. What I don't like is the part of the lying. The people that lie, play head games, and mess with people's heads. And then they flip the switch. And I've experienced this most of my life. And then they flip the switch. They get you in a vulnerable space, and then they flip the switch on you, and then they reverse it all around on you again. It's complete tools of the enemy. And if you've ever caught yourself playing head games with someone and you wonder, and if you did it a lot, this was something you did. I mean, it was just part of who you are. And this is not a threat either. Is you're going to find down the road those that you probably really, really shouldn't have done that to, that were super, super, like pretty good inside, would have just probably did anything for you. And you find yourself stuck somewhere in your life and you don't know why. You might want to go through that part of your memory bank and figure out who it was that you did that to. That can be a strong indication of where you got in life, in the sense of what kind of blessings the Lord allowed you. I bet this isn't going to go really great out there, because I won't know how to explain that on technically like a spiritual level. Because some of God's most favorite don't have a pot to piss in. So we can't really go on that on the monetary. We can go on spiritual blessings, peace of mind, contentment, no desire to be malicious or cunning, uh, power hungry, playing facades, personas. Those in themselves can be a blessing if God brought you out of something of that nature. And if I don't get silly or something, bro, I'm going to get bored. No. All right. So this would be considered my adult. This would be me teaching an actual class to other peers, or even younger a little bit. The other videos are just partial entertainment. Some people are just kind of in a fog. And the initial idea of it with the Lord was kind of like on the order of a spiritual shock treatment. And that was how we went about it. And then we just, sometimes it gets silly, but I'm just not in the mood tonight. And I'm, like I said, it's been, this week had a lot of condensed flares, big, huge pressure change also. Excuse me. It oddly warmed up and then dipped back. And I've never seen puppies this sensitive in my life. So I could say, I don't know how many times they woke us up this week. And they just simply weren't doing it to that degree before. And John likes to follow the solar flare stuff and all that. It intrigues him. He said the last ones, if they had been angled at the earth, or like a boomerang effect, it would have taken out most of the earth. It would have taken out most of the entire earth's grid. So this is not to scare you. This is to say that if God doesn't allow some sort of divine intervention during this time all the way through, I don't know if it's all the way through 2025, or if we can just get to 2025. Because see, this is the problem, and I have these periodic videos I make. We have the 5G towers, and they're putting more up all the time. This already alone, if you just had the 5G zooming through the air, it's military grade attacks. If someone has pre medical, like has pre-existing medical issues, physical or even psychological, it is going to amp that up. Throw in the Wi-Fi, the smart meters, the smart houses, dirty electricity, um, and throw in solar flares and all of that. Um, it's a recipe for disaster. And as you can see, the last several years during this solar maximum, nothing but kook town. And it has increased. And so as we're closing into the 2025, and no, this is not teaching technically astrology. Nah, I don't, you guys, this is like pure facts. You go back to the Carrington effect, what happened during the Carrington effect. And the thing is that back then, they had nowhere near the amount of, to the excessive level of satellites in the sky, um, remote devices being used, surveillance, drones, added excessive amounts of flying aircraft. Okay, and so how about also if we look at the planes, the random planes that are either A, they're just not working right, B, the pilots are having to hurry and do emergency landings, disappearing planes, just planes falling out of the sky. They had to start flying lower at one point. I'm not even sure if they're able to go back up to that higher level. There's apparently a reason for that. Could very well be the flares, because once those flares are really highly active, it would disrupt anything that is in the atmosphere, including the dwellers on the planet. And so is she going to start getting fired up? Maybe I am. Maybe I am. Now, if you don't leave Facebook, you have a problem. Now, you're going to say, well, Cure is a mess. It's like the wild, wild west. There's predators all over there. Yes, there is. And you know what? I don't think at any stretch of the imagination does Cure act like they're this, super duper safe place for young people. It's that Facebook was geared towards the family type thing. Bring the kids on. The kids are in the classroom. They're on Facebook. Miss Sally Lynn's second graders are on Facebook. They do, no. And I signed consent forms all the way up, non-consensual. We were non-consent. But I always checked in with my son about it. He didn't want to be on there like that either. And then at some point in middle school or whatever, he with a relative or something, they helped him get his Facebook up. And that's fine, but I knew that there was predators out there already. I knew how bad it was, and I knew that the online Facebook was going to be nothing but a more or less like a psyop on the people working on the dark side of the moon for the dark side, the dark forces, and here we are now. And I am kind of telling you what to do, but I'm not. I'm making a strong, strong suggestion. I understand it's a great place to advertise your stuff. I get the whole thing with all of that, but I'm telling you what, if people don't leave Facebook and leave now, to make a point to Zuckerberg and his crew, the entire premises of all of that was based on so many lies. It was to socially profile you. It was to be able to track you more easily. And it also helped create a worse environment, a more lush environment for organized crime, predators, and all of the aboves. I couldn't believe how many times someone would come out of the woodwork and they'd be like, why aren't you on Facebook? Everyone's on Facebook. And I just would always make excuses. I'd just be like, well, we don't have a working computer right now. Or, well, sometimes that was the case. Or, you guys, I'm the one that was going to registers. Like, we can't do debit cards. I was going to the bank. Like, how did this pass through the finance agencies? Like, why are we putting our money on plastic our bank account with the advent of Facebook and all the rest. Hello! Seems like weird timing, don't it? Finally had to succumb to a debit card and periodically visited Facebook, and that was about the extent of it. But why is she bringing this up? Now, I don't know. Maybe it was a false thing, but the pedophiles are free. Pedophiles are free. My whatever, whoever I thought I was helping, I guess it was just within the family, and that's why I just wanted to take reduce the abuse. It wasn't the I didn't fix nothing, for Christ's sakes. I got hammered bad for trying to do the little bit of major protection I did. And I never have to expel what I mentioned to several members of the family or extended networks of what would happen if I found out again. Okay. And I think that's between me and God and the children. All right. So I would say fuck y'all, because free speech is still not the kids, but that's between me and God. So um, okay, so back to Olstein's church down in Texas. I don't know if this was just some random woman. I don't know her ethnic background. I literally didn't look any of it up. It came up, it's called Law and Orders or something or other I get. And I hate that. I actually hate the group because it's just a website or a news column. But there's so many ads that pop up on it. I get irritated, and you got to keep Xing out just to read the article. So I don't particularly like that about it, but I did find that source through someone on Quora. The other thing is if it was part of one of the extreme groups, there's already been proof made that some people from the Middle East are crossing the border, that there's a whole slew of different cultures crossing the border that we would never even imagine. That's been done through professional journalists. People are really like busting on Tucker Carlson. Baby steps, elephant steps for some of us is he got out. He maybe had to get fired, but I used to watch that man struggle. I knew that he had to say shut up about some things. I knew his balls were in a vice to some degree, and I knew eventually either A, he was going to get fired or he was going to have to leave. I could see it in his eyes sometimes if I could even get through part of his show or part of his reports on when he was on Fox. I remember the days back when he was on the fence. I remember the days back when he was back and forth and all around. Some are saying, oh, I don't trust Tucker. He's paid. Yeah, he probably is paid. So we always have to keep that in mind because, see, our faith is in God, and we just need some credible journalists that did not bow down to the devil and are willing to go out on a limb, regardless of who they represent. But if it's part of the woke, if it's part of this agenda to sexualize our children and take away parental rights in the schools and organizations and doctors' office and therapists, then we have that is still a serious problem. And this problem is so paramount that would be why God would allow most of this earth to be destroyed in a horrific manner, meaning he will let it happen. It doesn't mean that he fully wants it to happen, but sometimes he just has to simply wake up when the masses get too far over into evil. And so I wanted to get to at least one good part. So I didn't know what this, it was like a dream. I can't say if I was in a full dream state. Because I am attacked so heavily 24/7, there's now a clicking noise that they've started in my ear. I'm like, well, geez, maybe the fucking Nazis or whoever set this up on me is trying to deprogram it. Well, I think it's so deeply embedded. There's really no way for me to get cleared of this. And I do believe they embedded something near my pituitary. I believe it was probably done way too young. I believe it has dislodged at certain points. I don't know if they re-put something back in at U of M, but the thing is that the the harassment that I get, and we would just call it, I guess we'll just call it the dark side of the moon attacks. But sometimes can be so excruciating that I can't even describe it. So when I get a break like this, it's like it's usually pretty clear that it is from the Holy Spirit. I may have had to, would have been one of those mornings where the dogs, we hadn't gated them out of the bedroom because of the solar flares, and they're just jumping around, jumping on the bed, howling in the house. We're like, whoa, what's going on? Like waking us up out of a dead sleep. And I'm like, that's been about a week or so of that, and it's not gone well. And now they're knocked out like they have a sedative, you know. And so okay, so I would say it's a dream. We could say just it was a vision or what, but it was me and John. It was in our more slender years, and we were on a motorcycle. And I'm like, well, we don't have a motorcycle. We did have one once. I'm gonna get into that, but it wasn't like a big hog type. It wasn't like, and this wasn't like I think there is a Jason Bourne film where he takes off with. It wasn't like that. It didn't feel like we were leaving like the burnt down Sodom and Gomorrah, or which one was burnt down or fell down. Everyone turned to stone. It wasn't like that. I mean, it was like so not like what I'm usually contending with sometimes is like some of my dream world is having to fight off a form of evil. In the sense of living where we are now, it was one of the more pleasant dreams. And there's just been this thing with me and God, and I do always sound hesitant when I say these things, is I don't want to be wrong when it comes to spiritual matters with the Lord. And some things I sit on and I sit on until simply Jesus wants me to let it out, to say it, and wherever the dice may fall, they fall. And if it's drastically wrong, I will try my best to counteract that. Be it I am somewhat of a one woman circus here with these videos. Is if I check back over videos, I'm kind of the only one doing it. And then how do I keep track? It's so I do the best I can. I had said I would be shocked if we were all fully intact through February. It's looking pretty good, but the violence and the all of that is increasing. Okay, I'm going back to Olstein's now. After that off-road event again, is I don't know the authenticity of this person. I talked about the group that I got the article from. I did not even, if I read through it, it was a brief synopsis. So I am going to research who it is, if they've identified the woman. It seemed very on the order of a warning from more of like a Middle Eastern group type style, maybe Oriental, but it seemed to me more like she was forced or she was the warning. And if she did possess of a poison substance that she poured on the ground. She had a small one with her, with a gun, and people did get injured, and I think a child died or so. It's very devastating, and I would not be shocked if he shuts the church down for a while and just goes on a on TV, on video. Because my first sensing was it was a warning shot. It was a warning shot. The one extremist, he was, I think, Candace Owens had a clip of it, and some other people. He apparently is a leader or one of the leaders of an extremist group in the Middle East, and he was very haughty and pretty much said, "You may not know who I am now, but you will soon." I don't even know if that was 2 or 3 weeks ago, And then a lady, I mean, how many of these things have already occurred we don't know about? See, where I come from, even though the town keeps growing, I mean, what do you really call this place? It's like a city, but it's not. Metropolis? It's becoming, who knows? So is they still suppress a lot, okay? So like for instance, when something got caught up with some of the organized crime here, I don't know if we'd almost been several years ago, but they just started burning old businesses down. They just had arson done. There was no follow up. Nobody ever got the full report of what really happened or why they happened all in a consecutive, almost literally like you could put it on a timeline. And I knew it was organized crime related, and no investigations were done properly. As always, it's always the same with this county when it's involving the organized crime networks. Is they'll just say they couldn't find the cause of the fire or whatever, and then you never hear a wrap up, you never hear a loop back, they never bring this back up. And then several old timers, or what you call the good old boys, passed away, all within the same like time frame. I mean, it was quite unreal, really, when you think about it. And maybe another person wouldn't see a pattern like that. Oh, I saw it right away. I didn't even have to look for it. I mean, it was so blatantly obvious. Um, it certainly was a little bit, woo, you know what I mean? Makes you jump a bit to see that the groups could have this much power, especially with the way this place is growing, and that there was apparently no backlash. I remember talking like the first bowling alley, or one of the first. It was like in the 60s. It was huge, just burns to the ground, practically all of it. An insurance company, some apartment complexes. This was all within, I'm talking, these were all within like a close. And we're still having a lot of fires, but these bigger businesses and stuff, it just seemed like something really haywire. And this is not really like some areas where you just, like, say Detroit, they had old houses, they'd just be burning down all the time or whatever. This is not really one of those places. That was never really like that here. Crime is increasing, and actually, across from where the old bowling alley was, we have seen, this could be upwards of the third time, eight, say it would be like, say, 8 cop cars. So say half state, half county. It's a small carryout, and that they're having that kind of trouble. And the owner who was working there would not tell us what happened. Okay, when I do stuff like that, like, I gotta go. I might come back on a few hours. We'll crank out some drums. I had an old song I wrote, and the whole thing has done come to truth, and it kind of was really messing with me because I wrote it back in like 2005. We'll say between 2004 and 2006, I wrote it. And most of the time, nobody really knew what it was I was talking about, because I was trying to kind of do it in a code. And that was our one kind of on the order of a growl metal song. A lot of our other music was very melodic and whatnot. This one was locked up in a hole, and I don't have all the words memorized. I can't, at the moment, I'm not sure where this one is. Maybe it'll come back to me right now, and then I gotta go. It's called Locked Up in a Hole, or Locked Up. Locked up in a hole of nothingness, set us free from our loneliness. Not just I, but society in whole, trapping ourselves in monetary goals, brainwashed, fucked up ways. And then it mainly is then going to discuss in the next couple verses those that run the show, how it's a farce, more or less. We fell for it, and then they're cloning that's cloned. Like, it's so fake, it's cloned. Okay? This operation that we've all been following for way too long. And then I go back into those other versions. So hopefully I can find it, make more sense of it. Maybe, just maybe, John won't mind getting on the camera with me. And so I can mess that song up and not do it how it was originally made to be. Um, and it's not a wordy one, but it definitely is discussing politics and society as a whole. And it always meant a lot to me. And but then to think that now it's so in our face and it's normalized. It's normalized, you know. So like the AI and stuff, like that would be clone to me. The cloning was then, I back way then, even though I knew about cloning back then, they were experimenting with cloning on sheep and stuff. And I was just like, oh no, oh no, 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 this is so bad. And even though it's always advised as for like a health reason, for curing something or saving someone's life, cloning, that to me is you're messing with the fire of God, because He's the creator of all things, and He's the one that makes things, and He's the one that decides when we're born and when we live and how and when we die. Okay, so on that, I love you, and maybe read Mark 3, and maybe I come back on later. Maybe it's tomorrow. We got it too many times, but Barris now. It's just like I said, the puppies were like just boom, boom, boom. Like if you had the bass pumped up, like turned up high, that was the puppies just like boom, 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 and it was just like, yeah. So and now, I mean, now what's this? I don't know. It's one of his rope toys by his nose, and if I were to touch it, you would see how scary it can be. Ooh! Oh my gosh!